Just a little over 2 weeks now and the PS5 Pro will be upon us, and more details are coming out all the time. So another full hands-on experience here. So let's see what Digital Foundry have to say. This is John having a proper play on it this time. So let's
Okay, so
see how
PlayStation 5 Pro is happening. Pre-orders happened this week. I think we've all got pre-orders pre-ordered. In case, we always pre-order hardware because there's no obligation whatsoever for Sony to actually give us hardware. It's not as if we have a God-given right to it.
And that's the thing. I think some people are missing this with this console. It's an option. It's released, and it's for the enthusiasts that want the best out of the current generation regarding what you can get from a PS5. If you don't want to buy it, you don't buy it. You stick to a still really, really good PS5. It's better than having no choice at all. I'd rather it be there and have people have a choice than not be there and there be no choice.
But even so, some news this week. Now, we're going to be talking about John's trip to Japan a bit later on. But at TGS, Tokyo Game Show, John, you did actually play the PlayStation 5 Pro. You've seen it. You've seen what it has to offer. Mm-hmm. And I've seen it now. Tom Morgan's seen it. Actually, pretty much everyone on the team has seen it except you, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious what your takeaway is, John.
Yeah, I gotta say, in person, the end result was more impressive than I expected, I guess you could say. Now, this being TGS, the actual game selection I had access to was more limited. Basically, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Gran Turismo 7 were both shown on the system. Rebirth, I famously tweeted about its image quality being a huge leap, and it was actually even larger than I anticipated.
Okay, so he said what he saw was actually better than what he thought it was going to be, and that is going to happen because basically what you're seeing on the screen is basically like a low quality image to what you can see in real life, even though you can see the difference quite clearly between that PS5 Performance Smooth and the PS5 Pro on the screen. It's going to be bigger than that. It's going to be a much bigger difference in real life, just the way that YouTube basically just kills the image quality of an image such as this. But let's see what he carries on saying.
Was actually even larger than I anticipated. It genuinely looks like it's game changing in terms of that, because as I think we famously or not so covered back when the game was released, is that image quality was not very good in this game compared to other competing titles and what we typically see these days. It was a lot blurrier and just like lacking detail than we were used to seeing, especially in the performance mode. So much so that Square had to react to the feedback from the demo of people complaining and added another mode, which just ended up being nearest neighbor upscaling of the lower res source instead of bilinear scaling. Or linear scaling. So that was weird. But in the demo, they allowed you to switch between the linear scaled performance mode and the new PSSR mode. And it was like lifting a veil of like smear and blur. And
like lifting a veil of smear and blur. That's a good analogy. I kind of know what it means. Like having like a net curtain over something and you lift it away. And everything's so much clearer, much better to look at. So the PSSR, I think, is going to be quite powerful. Yeah, game changer, he says. Game changing. And like lifting a veil. Oh, good. Good words.
Smear and blur. And it, sitting close, I think I was using like a 42-inch screen, similar to my monitor here, sitting very close to it. So, I could very much pixel peep as much as I pleased. And it just straight up looked like a clean 4K presentation now.
Wow.
Very, very, very sharp. All the various like sparkling aliasing issues, the blur, everything was just lifted away, and you could just see much further into the distance with full clarity. And
so that's really good because this is PSSR in its absolute infancy. So it shows already that it's going to work and work the way it was intended. So if PSSR can make something look like 4K, and if you weren't told the difference, if at a normal viewing distance, not like pixel peeping up close from 3 inches away saying, oh, look at that, I can see the difference between that pixel and that pixel, when comparing side by side, if at a normal viewing distance, you can't tell the difference between native 4K and just the resolution with PSSR added to make it look like 4K. If you can't tell the difference, that's good enough for me.
and it ran great at 60 FPS. So right away, that made a big difference in terms of just making the game far more presentable. Now, could they have done better in the first place on the regular base PS4?
Probably.
I tend to think so, yeah. But this is more just a case of seeing what PSSR can do over some of the more standard techniques. I think FF7R just uses like a normal TAA with like a basic regular upscale, a spatial upscale, nothing fancy, no reconstruction. This is obviously reconstruction. So then there was Gran Turismo 7, and that they only had the 4K ray tracing mode available on display. They did not have an 8K screen there, unfortunately, so I couldn't see that mode in action. Although I actually asked about...
Just pause it briefly. I don't think too many people are going to be bothered about this 8K thing. It's just there for the sake of it, really, I don't think. Hardly anyone's got an 8K screen. I'd much rather have 4K with all the effects on than 8K and lose some effects. It's like, yeah.
The 8K mode, whether you'd be able to downsample it to 4K, and they said, not currently, no. And I tried to convince them that that's a good idea, you should do it. And I think that we'll look into that. But for now, it's like it only engages if your display is set to 8K. So basically, I wanted to see if I could check out the downsampled 8K mode on this 4K screen, and that was a no-go. It's not supported. But the 4K mode does indeed have the ray tracing, and as I pointed out from that initial footage, the internal resolution has been dropped, and they rely on PSSR to get up to 4K. And in person, it looked a lot more convincing to my eye than it did when pixel peeping the ProRes videos somehow. I thought it looked very, very sharp. It was a very clean presentation suddenly. And seeing the game running at 60 FPS with the ray traced reflections, which obviously due to the internal res being a little lower, reflection quality takes a minor hit, as we know. But it's very convincing, and I would say far more convincing than what we saw in the PC updates for, or I guess even on console, the ray traced reflections in Forza, basically.
Just pause it there quick, because a lot of people, when watching this, obviously it is a downgraded image. It's not going to be what you're seeing in real life. It would be far, far better. But the point is, just watching them like this, the PS5 version of Gran Turismo 7 is still absolutely outstanding. So a lot of people getting in a bit of a tiz, saying the PS5 Pro is not worth the money. It's not any different to the PS5. And on some games, you're not going to see a huge difference. It's like a lot of people watching this now, we're thinking, the PS5 version is so good, what is the point of the PS5 Pro? I mean, there's more to it besides the graphics. There's the 2TB SSD and the PSSR and things like that. But what you're seeing here, for most people that own a PS5, is going to be good enough. If the Pro didn't exist, I would be perfectly happy with my PS5. But I'm one of those fussy gits. If I can afford it, and I can, then I want the best that it can be. So I will get a Pro. I've got one pre-ordered. I'm really looking forward to it. And we'll see what it does. But the PS5 version still looks absolutely cracking. Really, really does.
Which are extremely limited and not great. Here, right, you get basically, aside from the resolution, the quality is basically on par with what you see in the replays previously in the game, which means the roughness cutoff is set to such a point that even very rough materials actually show RT reflections. And cars have a lot of those with various plastics. It's a mix of things on a car. And having the reflections be consistent across the body in that way, driving, I found it quite pleasing. They actually, the default, I was able to choose different cars, but the default car they had selected was like a giant, like mini bus. So it's like a giant flat bus with a ton of variable roughness surfaces from the glass, the paint, the plastic bottoms. So like, it ended up being a great demonstration of seeing the environment and other cars reflecting on your car when using the third-person camera, which was cool. So, you know, GT7's already a gorgeous-looking game, and just adding this in really pushes it up, and it's exactly what I think we had hoped to see. We've talked about this many times. It's like just getting those real-time ray trace reflections actually in the game is awesome. And of course, the other benefit here is that you can, in the replays now, you get ray traced reflections at 60 FPS.
Okay.
Whereas obviously in the base PS4 version, it was 30
Doesn't
FPS capped,
anyway.
but it could drop below 30 points. Whereas here now you got full 60 FPS replays with the ray traced reflections. So the whole game across the board now can just be 60 with RT, and that's it. And I think that's awesome.
Cool.
That's just standardized.
That's cool. That's very good.
So yeah, impressions were positive, and seeing the unit in person as well, I think it does look better than the regular PS4, just like the Slim does as well.
PS4? Did he mean PS5? I think he meant PS5. Because it's very different from the PS4. I wasn't hearing things, was I? I did say PS4, didn't he?
PS4, just like the Slim does as well. They don't does look better than the regular PS4, just like the Slim does as well. They don't really, it's hard to tell from photographs, but when you actually see it in person, it is less bulbous somehow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the original
you have the advantage
boy.
over me here, John, because I haven't seen the actual unit. I have seen the dev kit now, and as expected, it's identical to the existing PlayStation 5 dev kit. You can't tell the difference. Well, what can I say? It is a case where I think you do have to get the full effect. Obviously, you need to see it. It's the same with anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can only go so far with a limited media playback system like YouTube. And I'm kind of thinking, a lot of people are saying I'm not seeing any difference, etc., etc. That's kind of not the fault of the software in many ways. I mean, there's a reason you have to do zooms and stuff to actually highlight the differences between stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, now it's more noticeable there. They zoomed in on it there because YouTube ordinarily would just crush the image quality to a point where a lot of people will say, I can't see the difference.
Most people watching our videos are doing so on 5 to 7 inch mobile devices.
Exactly.
So, those are the sort of challenges. When you're actually sitting there with the PlayStation 5 Pro, it's clear.
It's quite funny. I think it's something like 70% of people or more watch YouTube on a mobile phone. Most game players on console, obviously it's different for PC users. PC users play on monitors of various sizes. But I play my games, for example, on a 65-inch OLED. The difference that you're going to see from PS5 to PS5 Pro on these enhanced games is going to be very, very noticeable on that big screen. If you're looking at it on a mobile phone, 5.7 inch, unless you've got some sort of eyes of a hawk, in fact, that won't even make a difference because the resolution is the resolution, then yeah, it's going to look the same. Of course it will. It's kind of weird how people don't suss that out. That's kind of common sense to a lot of people.
Sitting there with the PlayStation 5 Pro, it's clearly a superior device to the base PlayStation 5. Actually, it brings up this question from leftist Hominid. When a multi-plat PC port is broken and I really want to play the game, I will play it on consoles. With the arrival of PSSR on the PS5 Pro, how likely is it that developers will stop using a horrible FSR upscaling on that platform?
Exactly, and this is the issue. I've done a video about this a couple of days ago about how broken many PC games are from right off the bat. And it's like, I'm not anti-PC, but the reason I love consoles is because of the hassle-free nature and simplicity of it all. You just put the game in or download it and it's going to work 99 times out of 100. You get the odd bad one that requires an update or two, but it's patched normally in no time. Like Cyberpunk was probably the worst example I've ever seen on a console from day one. But it runs, fantastic now, but has been out a while. There's so many PC games that I've tried to play and experienced, and a friend of mine, he's got a much, much better PC than mine, and he's just given up on it. He's just fed up with broken games, blue screens of death, having to configure things, having to go into settings, change with BIOS things and all the rest. It's just, he's going to get a Pro and just plug it in, press play, done. And this, when a multi-plat PC port is broken thing, it seems to happen a lot. And it's not really the PC format's fault. Well, it kind of is in a way, because there's just so many different configurations of everything developers have to try and take into consideration when porting a game. It's impossible sometimes. It's a really impossible task.
FSR upscaling on that platform. I think I hate FSR more than Rich hates the Master System. Whoa, hold on a minute. Let's stop.
Whoa.
Broken PC ports are one.
Right, and this video, this has come along after I made that video. It's the first time I've ever seen this. And again, broken PC ports are the thing. This is one of the things. Yeah, of course, if you're one of the PC users that's got your PC and it runs perfectly smoothly, happy days. You're not going to know what they're talking about. If you've put it together really, really well, and it just happens to be in a configuration that works with so many ports, then absolutely fantastic. You're not going to have these issues. But like it or not, a large percentage of people do have these PC problems. So it's not like stuff that console fans or anything like that have made up. It's a real thing, and it's one of the main reasons why people prefer consoles. It really is.
One of my motivations to buy a PS5 Pro. Well, I'm curious about your thoughts on that, Alex, but I do think that there's no real need to use FSR on PlayStation 5 Pro.
Absolutely not.
Titles.
No, I don't think so. There is, I mean, unless there proves to be something really wrong with PSSR, which I doubt, everyone should be looking to do it, unless performance is maybe like 120 hertz mode, they wouldn't maybe use it. Or like some sort of weird scaling, because it has a cost, and that's the only reason why I think they would use other things like TAAU or FSR2. So like, I don't want to say like every dev's going to use it. I want to be a little bit more realistic than that. But I think it should be superseding FSR2, which is why they made it in the first place. It is always a shame that Sony can't just slag on FSR2 in a video and show how PSSR is better. I think that would sell. It would sell better probably than having to show off what they've shown off before. But regardless of that, I think that is a good, if you're looking to avoid really bad multi-platform releases on PC. And I would say it's mainly the ones that have PSO stutter. Those are usually the ones where I would also argue that you can get a technically smoother experience on console, if it's just chock full of PSO stutter. And in which case the Pro would be the better place to play, presuming the frame rate holds up there. And just expensive though, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the nuclear option really, to actually spend $700 on a console, because maybe your $1,500 PC.
Yeah, or more.
Is having issues.
Why
has those issues?
I don't get why people keep saying it's expensive. He just literally said your $700 console, which is doing the same whatever it was as a $1,500 PC, which is having issues. So how is the Pro expensive? Oh, because it can do more. I've got a laptop for them other things. I've said it before. I've got consoles for games. I've got my laptop for all those other things that a lot of people just act like don't exist, as if you can't have a laptop. It's like, if you've got a gaming PC that can do all the other stuff with games as well, they seem to forget. I can have a cheap PC for the other stuff, or a laptop, which is portable too, can take it wherever I want. It's not the be-all and end-all, like just because a console can't do spreadsheets or whatever, or browse your favourite websites and things like that. I can do that, just not very well. Anyway, let us continue. But I don't get the thing about people saying it's expensive when they're saying that it's doing things better than a $1,500 PC. I'll have a laptop as well then, and have the best of all worlds, and ease of use, and hassle-free, and the rest of it. Anyway, let us continue.
Has those issues.
Just last thing, it's also, I mean, not buying the game on PC and then rewarding the console version is also a little weird. I would rather like you get like really angry on Twitter or something. I don't know how to explain it, but like you just can't accept. It would be great if there was more audience, I don't know, anger or directed.
We don't need more anger today, Alex.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know what the word is, but just like some way consumers
in the world could that be?
Make it really well known that it's not really acceptable to release PC games the way they are released.
Constructive criticism.
Yes.
Sure.
So one more thing though about the Pro is I also asked the Sony people there about, and it says expected the VRR stuff. VRR was not enabled on any of the demos, and I actually asked, do they have any intention of changing the way VRR works, basically to allow lower frame rate compensation? And what do you think they said?
No comment?
No, they did comment. It's just like, no. Like currently.
Oh.
No. It could. Actually, they did not rule it out. It's just that currently the PS5 Pro makes no changes to the way that works, but they did indicate that they've heard us talk about this many, many times and have taken the feedback on the nose. So, we'll see if that eventually changes. And if it does change, I'd imagine it would even apply to the base PS5. So we'll see.
Yes.
I sure hope it does. I hope if you guys are watching this, please consider updating the way VRR works. So, but yeah, I think the problem there is just the 60 hertz output thing, right? Because you can't really do LFC very well at 60 hertz. You need to force the system into 120 hertz mode, basically. So that also relies on the developer versus Xbox, where it's like a system-wide setting.
Well, it is. Well, the main takeaway of that was obviously that, kind of as expected, it looks better and it seems better in real life than everything we've seen before so far. Just because of the way, mainly, that we only seen images on YouTube and things like that, which compresses the image, doesn't look anywhere near as good as it does in real life. But yeah, looking forward to it. Only a couple of weeks and a bit to go now, and the things that I saw as highlights was words like game changing. And it's like lifting a veil. It's like that much clearer on the PS5 Pro. I mean, I know it was pretty bad anyway, some of the examples they used there, like on the Final Fantasy game. That was quite a blurry game in the first place, but the fact it's been improved that much, for me, is a really, really good thing. Well, anyway, there's the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, bash the like and subscribe button, and I'll catch you again in the next one. Bye for now.